All right. Welcome to the God's Business Podcast. My name is Jonathan. I'm your host. And today is episode 3 of season 2 of the God's Business Podcast, where we bring on entrepreneurs of faith to talk about how God works in their life and in their business. And today I'm joined here with Abel from Apex Advantage Bookkeeping, but he's coming with an experience of transition. 20 years in the financial industry, breaking it down to years in bookkeeping. And now he's opened up his own business and consistently helping to support the entrepreneurs and the business community at hand. So, Abel, thank you for coming on the podcast. Welcome.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
So, I know that you have a lot of years of experience, but I would love to hear more about your experience also with, your faith. Have you
Yeah,
always been a believer, or is this something newer? Or to help me understand a little bit about your background there.
I'll be happy to talk about that. Born and raised in a Christian household. My parents got divorced when I think I was, let's say 11, 12 years old, so fifth grade. So we had, and I'm talking as a collective, a family, we had a very close relationship of being in the church and then not being in the church, and then finding my own relationship with God. I was baptized approximately 5 years ago. And we'll definitely get into more of that because I enjoy that story on the why I made that decision 5 years ago. But overall, my whole life have been a follower of Jesus, but with backsliding and continuing struggle with my relationship. I always talk to people. I had a great conversation the other day. A relationship, like the Bible says, it's almost like a wedding, right? So I'm always working at cultivating that relationship with him, just like if you're married, it is work to make sure you stay close to that other person. And so my walk is a continue work to make sure I stay close and talk to him on a daily basis.
Okay. So
So
you grew up in the church, or you grew up in a Christian household, but it
yeah,
sounds like you've, the last 5 years, you really got closer to God, or you really got closer to your walk and your relationship with Christ. Is there
yeah.
something that happened that sort of like led you to start to really seek Him and really sort of question how you walked before?
Well, there's always struggles, with relationships, things like that. But what I really want to kind of focus on is really as I was in church that day. So let's talk about when day I made the
Yeah,
decision to
please.
be baptized. Is the preacher was talk the pastor was talking about, we're going to go ahead and have a baptismal on Easter. And one of the things that I never want to do as a follower is to do something because I'm told. I want to make sure, it's speaking to me versus just doing. So I definitely prayed during that time, and I'm grinning because I was a day that I was by myself at church. So nobody was with me. It was just me. And as I was praying, okay, God, is this something that you want me to do, to be baptized? I've followed you through my whole life, but I understand the significance of being baptized and being born again. Is this just symbolic, or is this something that we really want to do? And when I say I'm meaning myself and my relationship with him. Um, I just felt overcome. I would say I felt overcome by the Holy Spirit. The church was over, so I went to my truck and just started bawling. I mean, uncontrollably. And I even said out loud, I don't even understand why I'm bawling. All these emotions are coming up, but I didn't know what they were. But I definitely took that as a sign. There was my answer, right? I asked the question, and he definitely hit me upside the head and with those emotions to come out. So instead of leaving, I went back in and talked to the pastor's wife and said, "Hey, I'd like to sign up." And so that was my sign per se of my opportunity to talk to him directly. And that was why I was made that decision to be baptized at that time.
So
So
you were seeking to make your own decision, and you ask God for guidance. You sort of seek the truth on what
right.
do you need to do, and where are you going to be leading, so that you can glorify Him and your relationship with Him to stay true. And then He answered, like you were initially going to leave before signing up, and then
Right.
the Holy Spirit came over you, and it gave you your sign. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, definitely. And it was overwhelming because I'm not somebody who would cry on a regular basis, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter of, I mean, it was so overwhelming. There was no way I could ignore it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Were there anything else, like, I guess, I mean, is there anything else around that? Like, is it just you were struggling with life, or what exactly like led you to
I
cry so
wouldn't
much?
say anything else because it's always been that's why I said it's a relationship. It's always been a struggle,
Yeah.
during my teenager 20s, turning 21, going out and falling away because you want to have fun, different things like that. But knowing um, God always pulls you back, So I wouldn't say if there was just one thing. It was just my continued relationship with Him. My son is, for example, 25, and randomly I received a text message from him, and it was perfect timing. Again, it was just like, face Him, put your trust in Him, and that's not a message he normally sends. So he's going through his own personal journey, and so I that's what I believe. It's a journey, and it's a relationship that we had to cultivate. So it's not necessarily one thing. It's just as we go through our personal journeys.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
It's personal to everyone. I mean, everyone has their own story. But what I've noticed is doing these interviews with other people, very similar to you, where myself and others that I've interviewed and got had the pleasure of speaking to about this is they've the Holy Spirit has come upon them, and it typically is a feeling of a feeling of relief, and like it reminds me of the verses like Matthew 11:28 to 30. It says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you
Yeah.
and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." It reminds me
Yeah.
of that verse because that's what it feels like, at least for me. I mean, do you resonate with that as well, or is there anything else?
100%, because when we're stressed through our life, and it can be relationship wise, it can be business wise, it can be so many different things, or just your worry about your children or your family members. One of the things that provides support to me is a prayer that I say every night is, these worries that I have, I put at your feet, and I trust you to help me guide me through this and help me make those proper decisions, because it's ultimately our decision to do things. But if we're asking for Him to show guidance for us, that's where I find things become a little bit easier. I mean, we are meant to go through some hard times so we can help others, but by understanding that I put all my worries, all my stresses at His feet, and He's going to take care of me. And that's a prayer that I say almost every night.
That's amazing. And while we're talking about the Word of God and praying, is there a specific verse that you resonate with most that has helped you on this walk?
I knew you were gonna ask me, and that's something I don't wanna call it a flaw, but that is something where I cannot cite a verse right off the
No worries.
top of my head. But when you read the verses, or when somebody else tells me, I was like, "Okay, I can resonate with that, and I know why." One of the stories, so to kinda
Yeah.
go off of that question, it's really the story, and I don't know where that is in the Bible. I looked it up just to kinda understand, but it's Joseph. You know the story where of the colorful coat, and his brothers really tore him down, and the amount of forgiveness that he had, and where God took him through his journey of struggle. But there was a reason he went through that struggle, and that's what resonates with me, is Joseph going through that whole process and where he ended up, because God had a plan for him.
I love that. Yeah. But the story of Joseph is so relevant for a lot of believers and a lot of people in this walk is, there is struggle, and the struggle feels and it looks in the current situation as very grim, very very hard, right? Getting sold and going into these unknown lands, right? And just figuring out like what to do and just
Uh-huh.
lead what the struggles I found, and you probably will resonate with this, is it leads us closer to our relationship with God. It brings us
Yes.
closer and it strengthens us with our relationship with God so that when he does elevate us and he does bless us, which he is a good God, he loves us, and he loves
Yeah.
us and he's a God of abundance and prosperity. So he will, he wants to, elevate us, but he doesn't want to crush us. And
Yeah.
so that's the thing, is like these struggles and these hardships on life will, lead us into ways that are building a relationship with the most high and the source of truth. And so that's what I take away from you from that, even what you're saying about the story of Joseph. And would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. And the other thing that comes to mind is, again, I think I resonate with stories versus the Bible
Yeah.
verses, and that's okay. If I remember correctly, is it Job, where he was challenged? His wife and was even like, why are you continuing to do this?
Yeah.
And
Job.
he received all those stresses. In my mind, if I kind of resonate with me, when I get an opportunity to talk to people and they're going through their struggles, the struggles that I've gone through, I can empathize with them and have those conversations because God has decided all of us to go through our different struggles that we can help others. So those are the two stories that I kind of resonate with. So I'm better prepared to be able to help others. And that's kind of how one of the reasons I'm a bookkeeper, and I won't talk about business too much, but I want to be able to help those small business owners. So that's why those stories resonate with me. And that's how I kind of take that and help other businesses or just other people in general.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit about that because this is, the God's Business podcast. We are entrepreneurs. Like we literally,
Right.
everyone who I brings on this podcast is an entrepreneur, right? They're
Yeah.
running a business or they are starting a business or some sort of form that their purpose, their calling is to grow community, grow impact, grow purpose, and what their
Right.
mission is to do. And so Abel, I know that you mentioned that you started bookkeeping 5 years ago, but you also were saved 5 years ago. Is there any correlation to those two?
No, I don't believe so.
No.
Just a matter of just timing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's relationship wise during that time frame, those type of struggles with life. But
So what
no,
led you into bookkeeping? Like what brought you
what
into bookkeeping from finances?
just an opportunity. I have my son's mom. How can we do this? My son's mom's brother-in-law owns a construction company, and they needed some assistance. I'm like, oh, I could probably do that. So I started bookkeeping for them. Prior to that, I worked for a financial company, and it was just time for me to move on from there. Um, and continuing to I'm somebody who enjoys knowledge. So I it was a great challenge of mine to understand the bookkeeping accounting portion of it. So talking to a CPA and getting challenged that way was nice. And then from there, the positives that I received, I'm like, I can take on more clients. And then from there, I've had the opportunity to bring on a contractor to help me. So the business is starting to grow and continue to move in a direction that I never expected. So it's amazing. And I thank God for that.
It's amazing. And so it sounds like, you took an opportunity, your seek for knowledge, your interest in knowledge. Did you fall in love with bookkeeping? Is that what happened?
No,
No?
bookkeeping, like anybody else that probably listening to this, it's boring. It's something that you have to do. Where I
Okay.
fell in love with is the outcome of that. So, what are the numbers telling us? How can I help that business owner? So, it's more about relationships and making decisions off of those numbers. And that's what the bookkeeping, the accounting portion can help us with. But me as a person, I always consider myself a cheerleader. So I'm as ecstatic when a client gets a large acquisition or anything like that. Their revenue, their cash flow is looking better. We have those great conversations. But on the other side of it, I'm supporting them by saying, hey, there's some concern with the amount of expenses that you have. So it's my job to keep them focused on them creating money for their business, but not only that, reminding them to either try to keep the expenses down or what can we do, strategize for the next month. So
I
that's
love
the
that.
part I
You're like,
enjoy is the strategy, the relationship.
okay. You're helping if I understand, you're helping business owners be a good steward of their business.
Yes, yes.
I love that.
And
I love
yeah,
that. That's cool. It's a very important aspect because you have to know where you currently are and you have to have the vision of where you're going because those two things, right? If you as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, we typically are very visionary, right? I see where I'm going, I know where I want to go, and God has put it in me to get there and I'm going to do whatever it's going to take to get there.
right,
But if I don't know where I'm currently at, I don't know if I'm ever going to hit it. The
right,
same way if I'm like I know where I am today, but I don't know where I'm going, I don't know if I'm ever going to hit where I need to be. Right. So you
right,
need those both. You need the vision and the current sort of like reality or like that current sort of like check. And that's what
right.
you do. And you help provide that
Yeah,
outcome.
yes,
I love that.
correct.
I would love to hear also, right? Because your business, Apex Advantage Bookkeeping, started about a year ago. Is that right?
Yes, a little bit over a year ago. I think it was July when I officially filed my LLC.
I love that. That's good. And what made you want to start your business?
That goes way back. Let's talk about limiting mindset. Let's
Okay.
talk about creating dreams but not taking action, and that's really the core of it. When I was a teenager, I know I would always get magazines and read up. I want to start a business, how can I sell rims? I didn't even like cars, but it was something about how can I sell something, create that business. So I always had that drive, but I never had the confidence to do that. So it's always in God's time, right? Well, my
Mhm.
time wasn't back when I was a teenager or when I was 20. That was a different journey. Now is that time that I'm able to create that business, is the way I look at it, is able to create that business because I'm so much more knowledgeable with the experiences that I've had in the corporate world, but not only that, in the people that I'm networking with and hearing from them. Now I'm able to understand that knowledge versus just take it in. So now I can understand it and help on an individual basis to those businesses. So I've always had a dream of starting a business. I just wasn't ready and I didn't know that.
Okay. That I mean, hey, that's amazing to hear. You've had the drive. You just didn't know where to put it. You didn't know
Yeah.
how to put it, what to put. And similar to me, right? I've always wanted to be a business owner, entrepreneur. I've always been an entrepreneur, right? Trying and doing different things, but nothing really prospered. Like truly, nothing truly prospered until I gave my business to God and gave
Right.
everything to God. Right? Surrendered my
Yeah.
business, my life to Jesus Christ. And until that moment happened, my businesses where like started here and failed here, started here, failed here, right? But right to your point, right? You have to go through the training and the testing because I think it was even like I think it was the story of Joseph and Potiphar's wife, right? He was learning. I think Joseph was being trained in business, like while he was
Hmm.
there. He was being trained either in finances. Don't quote me on that, but like he's being trained and the talents and the skills that he needed to do in order to get to help and to be a supportive member of God's plan when he got to the
Right.
position that God has anointed him with and always had in plan for him. So
Right.
it sounds like you've gone through a similar sort of scenario where you knew you had the drive, you wanted to do more, but you didn't. It wasn't the right time because you weren't the right
Right.
person with the right skill set
Mhm.
to do the thing that needed to have the impact that you were seeking to make. Is that correct?
Right. That is correct. And we have to be, as business owners and followers of God, we create the plan, like we were talking about where we want to go, what are our goals. But if you create those goals, God has his plan for us. And it's interesting on how my thought process when I first started the bookkeeping is get clients, help them, provide reports, things like that. God's taken me into a presenter mode where I'm going to have people be able to help me with categorizing those that work, providing the reports so we can work with clients. But last night, for example, I just presented in front of 20 different business owners. I get that opportunity tomorrow to be in front and teach. And that is where the business has taken me. And that wasn't how I thought it was going to go. And I'm so grateful that's the direction it's going now. But it wasn't even a goal of mine at the beginning.
Wow.
So,
That's an amazing thing in itself, right? Like
mhm,
that just leads to show is like God's plan change like it's not that his plan changes, it's that we adapt to the pivots that
mm,
he makes us go through. Right? When he calls us to like you're saying, instead of being the person to just do the reports and to provide like the implementation, now you're the person who is using your communication and using your gift to help more people, whether they do business with you or not. It sounds
yeah.
like you're helping people
Mhm.
regardless. Is that right?
That's correct. Most of the people that I met last or presented to last night may most likely won't be any of my clients, but I felt like I provided some value to them, and that's important. And it goes to the prayer that I have too of God, help me make the proper decisions, but guide me in my decisions as well, because He's guided me somewhere I didn't know I was going. And I love that option, so be open to it.
I love that. And hey, when he does change our direction, it does, myself included. Like I'm an introvert. I used to be an introvert. I
Hmm.
had to step into the person I needed to be, right? To be even online, to post every day, to do this podcast, to talk to people, right?
Yeah.
But God knew that I needed to use the talents that I needed. And so he gave me opportunities to grow and to build. And he
Yeah.
doesn't give us anything that's going to overwhelm us and overtake us, but it does push us, right? And so
Yes.
I'd love to hear about that transition for you, right? Was it easy for you to like transition to that sort of like, now the presenter mode and the communicator mode? or was there also those limiting beliefs and struggles to do that?
100% limiting beliefs. Why is somebody going to listen to me? But the people that you surround yourself as well isn't very important. So praying, but having people that believe in Jesus as well. Because I was, by a coach, I was reminded you just have to ask. And so I asked, through prayer, is this direction I want to go? But that person reminded me and also calling me out with my limited mindset of you can do it. Everybody can see it, but not you. Why? So it challenged me. So the group that you carry around you is important as well. Because everything that I'm saying is the direction my business is going, things like that is exciting. But I didn't do it alone, of course, through prayer, through asking for God and the people that surround me, family and friends.
Hey, community, family, friends, right? I look at us, we're all in I mean, I've mentioned it in another podcast before, but we're all in, like, I feel the garden of God, right?
Mhm.
And so, like, God put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And in any garden, regardless of what garden it is, I've never seen a garden of one plant. I've never seen a garden of one flower, one tree. There's always multiple kinds of plants, trees, flowers, thorns, right? Various things to cultivate a community, to cultivate the garden to help, expand. So like there's like people who will fertilize. There's people who will, there's plants that will shade, right? Plants that will protect, right? And so
Yeah.
there's various people in God's garden in the entrepreneurship community, or even just in our community of believers, right? It's very important to surround yourself with other believers and other people of the spirit so that you can not be in isolation and you can not be led into temptation into the wilderness
Yeah.
without having someone to question or correct or to help just sort of think through these things. That's the way I see it. Would you agree with
Yeah,
that?
I would agree with that. That community is so important to have around you to, like you said, cultivate. Um, and I believe in that garden example because I'm always saying plant that seed. Somebody may not in business or in the walk of may not be ready today. But if you're planting that seed, if you're gentle with them and showing how you're walking, that'll stick in the back of their mind. And when it's God's time, it'll be right.
That's
So
amazing. I mean, that's very relevant to even right now. Like, I would not even ever consider me being in the seat where I'm in today or even having the impact. I mean, I get messages all the time, like from people I talk to that I didn't even know I made an impact with. Like I was
uh
just showing the love that Christ shows to me and, through me, through my business. And it's just like people, it's a planting the seed. It's like you plant a good seed and you should reap a good harvest, right? You
right,
plant a bad seed, you should reap a bad harvest, right? And
right.
so you reap what you sow, and if you're sowing good seed, you will reap good harvest. So yeah, no, that's amazing. So tell me, I would love to hear, you started your business. What were the challenges? What were the struggles like? Like for a lot of people who don't have a business, right? Or let's say somebody who does have a business, but they're really struggling to figure out like, what do I do? How do I build this thing?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you had a guiding principle to help you?
Yeah, one step at a time. So, if we want to start a business today, it's overwhelming. Okay, where do we start? What state should it be in, et cetera? And we can come up with 200 questions, right? The first thing to do then is to take a step back and say, okay, what's the first step? Acknowledge that I want to start a business. Okay, what's the second step? And then of course, praying and asking for that guidance on what's the first and second. Because as you go through a business journey, your day one will not look like your day 10 and think about it in 10 years. So it's just a gradual process and allowing myself that grace of understanding this is going to be a gradual process. It is not going to, most likely, it's not going to succeed within 1 month. Of course, there's rare occasions that way, but we're talking about somebody who has the dream of starting a business but doesn't know where to start. The main thing is just to start. And that doesn't mean by spending money. That means by getting a piece of paper and saying, "Oh, what do I want to do? What do I enjoy?" Write that down. And your mind will continue to move forward. You just have to intentionally work with your mind to get that done. So it's a step-by-step process.
With that. And I think it was in the Proverbs, it's like make a decision and walk that, like steadfast. Be
Yeah.
steadfast, be thoughtful in the decision you make, but be
Yes.
steadfast in the decision you take. Right. So just, make that decision, cut off all the other paths. If you once you decide that you want to start this thing, take the smallest step forward. Because I've noticed that the paths that we take, you can't see everything at all, but yet you can see what's right in front of you. And if you do that, the paths will continue to open up for where
Right.
God has decided to lead you. Because, hey, if He told us we're going to be, doing these up on the mountain, climbing this, that, the other, and all of a sudden, we're going to be climbing Mount Everest, but we've never climbed a mountain in our entire life,
Right.
it sounds really, really daunting. And that's the way I see what you just said is like
Yeah.
starting a business. It seems really, really daunting, but taking that first step, deciding, okay, what is it that I like to do? What is it that
Yeah.
I want to do? And then writing it down and using your thought and prayer to God to help guide you in that decision is very,
Right.
very crucial. So that's cool.
And then it goes back to your community. I've been lucky enough. Okay, I decided I want to start a bookkeeping business. What's that first step, right? I know how to do the bookkeeping, but there's so much more to doing a business. I was able to go into a bookkeeping mentoring group, and then on top of that, they are Christian based, and they're all of their information is definitely regarding Bible verses and things. So I'm like, this, I fell into it thinking, right? But that goes back to God's guidance to being able to, me being lucky enough to be able to find them. And now I've built a mentor relationship, but not only that, a friendship with more believers. And that was nice too.
Wow. Would you even ever think that you'd be a part of that when you started?
No, no, I wouldn't. And the amount of value that they provided to me as a business owner has accelerated my business process. So maybe that's another thing to the viewers, to people listening, is find that right mentor that has similar beliefs as you so they can help you in that walk.
I love that. Surrounding yourself with the right people and the right teachers, the right
Mhm.
community to help foster an environment for it's like a nursery. It's like if you think of plant the seed in the desert or plant the seed in a greenhouse nursery, right?
Yeah.
It's the same seed, but, totally different environment. And
Yeah.
so, that's the way I see what you just said is like you've or God has led you to an environment for that's conducive for growth and
Yes.
conducive to help support your mind. Because at the end of the day, like it's what's in here is what we're actually building because we
Yes.
can't be building what we don't first think about. And
Right.
so that's amazing.
Yeah. And I see his hand on my business and my life in that same way. Just another example. Networking is important for business owners. And every time I network and have a long-term relationship with these other business owners, I've had conversations. They're like, I don't know if you believe in Christ, but, and they're like, oh yeah, I do. That unintentionally, God is putting people in my life that also believe and will either challenge me or I'm able to assist them in in
I love that. That's so good. I have a belief, right? I have a belief after doing business and also walking this walk with Christ. It's, if God has given you your business, why would you think that God won't bring you your clients?
yes.
And and it goes also on the other side of that too is like I personally have gotten business from people who were not believers. And this is what happens. It's really crazy. Like I look at it as God's provision because let's say I was to build a website for someone and they came to me and they said, I want to hire you. And all I do is talk about God and my love for Jesus, right? For the most part. But they'll hire me, right? They'll pay me money. They will pay me money. But then all of a sudden, they're gone forever. It's like the craziest thing. It's like it's like pray to God, like, I don't know how we're gonna make it this next month, like, but I give all glory, I give all glory and
Yes.
trust to you, Lord. And then all of a sudden, just like, and then he brings people who I'm meant to work with long term. And then he
Mhm.
brings people just to provision the mission that he has. And so like he'll bring people and he will allow people to work with you and he will not allow people to not work with you. Even
Yeah.
if like they'll just fall off, right? It's just not meant to be in a way. But the people who are, right, will stay and cultivate. And it's based on the value, based on the relationship that you build as well.
Yeah. And I want to add to that, those people that maybe hired you to do a website and don't believe, but you planted that seed. That
Correct.
seed with them may cultivate next month or 10 years from now, or on their deathbed. They're going to remember that conversation that you've had. And I think that's important.
I love that. I love that. Yes. You actually just gave me a thought is like, oh my gosh. our business is our ministry because we have an opportunity and sort of a more of obligation to help share the love of God through us. And as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, we are interacting with other, people who are building a community, people who are building stuff, like whether they're
Yeah.
building towers, they're building houses, they're building, groups of people, right? They're cultivating impact and change in the world. And so if we as a business owner following Christ, share and continue to plant that seed, right? We're literally, yeah, doing God's work. We're helping to share and share the word of God and
Yeah.
help others bring them closer to Christ as well.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes feel free. One of the things that I love about my network is I always give the permission or the space to disagree with me. There are times where it's a matter of maybe I'm not bringing up the Bible, I'm not bringing up my personal walk, but it's how I react to difficult situations. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to let them know that I'm praying. These are my morals. This is what I fall back on, and they're asking now. It's an unintentional or excuse me, it's an intentional seed, but they didn't know it wasn't me preaching or anything. It's just how I walk in life is the goal.
Yeah, I mean, he's seeing through your actions. He's seeing
Mhm.
seeing through what you're doing, and if you're impacting people in a good way, like I literally, I went to like I don't know if you have it in where you're Nebraska where you're at, but we
Mhm.
have a Bubba Coos. Do you have a Bubba Coos?
No.
If not, it's like a Chipotle. You have a Chipotle kind of thing.
Yes, we do.
Okay, similar to that,
Okay.
different, but similar to that. We walked into me and my family. I was with my mother, my wife, and my son. No, my mother, my wife, and my aunt. And we, we're all believers, and we come together to spend time together sometimes. And I walked into this Bubba Coos. It was like a Chipotle, and we walked in there, and the people there just said, "You guys are the nicest people." And in my mind, I was like, "What?" Like they literally said, "You guys, you all are just the nicest people I've ever met." And what we tell them is, "Hey, it's not us; it's Christ within us, right?
Mhm.
That you're seeing, right?" And so exactly what you're saying is like people can see even if you're not even trying. Like your light will shine
Yeah.
without you even trying. And it's all because of God.
Yeah. That makes me think of, I always call it my corporate world. When I many years ago when I led a team, one of my goals was to be a servant leader. So that servant leadership, who's the best leader in that? It's Jesus. He was that servant leader, washing somebody's feet when they told him, "You're Jesus. Why are you washing that person's feet?" So I try to strive to be that type of leader when I had a team. And now I continue to remind myself that that's the type of leader that I want to be. As a business owner, we have so much more opportunity because we get to go out to the community. We get to hire people and be the servant leader to them, not manage them, be that servant leader so they're better off. Let's say they quit 5 years from now, but they are a better person, better off, more knowledgeable than they were when they first started. So that I feel is another good opportunity to be that business owner and that servant leader.
I love that. Yes. That verse or that story, where Jesus is, cleaning the feet and they're asked,
Uh-huh.
why? Why?
Yeah.
It really, who is least will be greatest among you. Who is greatest among you will be humbled, right? In the
Right.
Bible, it says, I don't exactly know what verse that is, but yes, exactly that is like we should look at God and Jesus as example, as the perfect example of how we can live our lives or strive to live our lives. And yeah,
Right.
we're not perfect. Like I'm not perfect at all. I'm like the last from perfect, and I'm a sinner saved by grace. By the grace of God that He's here with us. And so, yes, exactly to your point is if we can see Jesus and see His example and live our life for to help spread the goodness and the
Hmm.
blessing that we are bestowed upon with the Holy Spirit, right? It's an amazing thing to serve and to lead through serving and to help
Yeah.
others by serving others.
Agree.
Yeah, I love it. And I would just love to hear a little bit more about your business.
Okay.
You are almost 2 years in. You're a
Yeah.
little over a year into business. Where do you find that you're heading? Into what direction? I know that we talked about you being a presenter, you being this, that,
Mhm.
the other. Do you know, or do you have a feeling of where at least your next step is? And maybe in the next 10 years, where do you want to take this business?
Yeah. It's growth and with intention. So I talked about a bookkeeper that's currently a contractor with me. We've had some great conversations. And as we grow, for any business owner, we want to not just work in our business, we want to work on our business and be that true CEO portion. So as we grow, the team will grow and I'll be able to make a different impact instead of being in the day to day, talking to more business owners, doing more presentations, and feeling like I'm adding value to these businesses. And that's one way the clients will come in and that's where the revenue will take care of itself. If you are providing value to people, they will come back and you'll be rewarded in many ways. So it is growth. We have set our goals for 2026. It's going to be education. I just had a potential client call right before this meeting where they're like, we've been in business for 10 years, but we've never really looked at our numbers. And the seed that you planted, I think I talked to him like 3 or 4 months ago, it resonated what you said. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. And that's what I want to get these business owners to understand. We need to look at those numbers every day. So that education will take care of my growth later.
I love that.
So I hope I
Hey, I
answered the
mean,
question.
very much so, very much so. We get, what is it? I think Jim Rohn. I don't know if you're familiar with Jim Rohn. He's a
I
back
am.
in the day motivational speaker. He said, we don't get paid for time, but we get paid for the value we bring to the marketplace, which takes time. And
Yes.
so, we will get rewarded and we'll receive our impact by the more value we bring to the marketplace. And so, and that's exactly what you're saying is like you're here to help people, and bring value to the marketplace. And and what, are you doing this online or is there any way that people can like get in touch with you? How can somebody like get that education that you're providing?
Great question. My website is apexadvantage.pro. We do virtual. So I have clients in California as well as Pennsylvania. And so really going all over the country. So we can service and help people all over the country. In 2026, we will be doing online QuickBooks training so people can do their own books and be confident in doing their own books as well. We will be working with nonprofits in Nebraska to also assist small or maybe brand new business owners that way. But to get in contact with me, is my email address is contact@apexadvantage.pro. My Facebook is also Apex Advantage Bookkeeping LLC. So feel free to contact me, follow. The month of December, we're doing business tips every other day, just little things that we see business owners either forget or try to bypass. And I think it's very helpful to get that out there.
Love that. And hey, I have been watching the business tips and I think those are amazing.
Thank you.
and yeah, no, keep it up. I mean, like that's the thing is like consistency,
Mhm.
consistently because like in the Bible, you cannot control the weather. You cannot control if you plant the seed and the bird takes the seed. You can't control if the seed gets washed away. But all you can control is will you get up and will you plant that seed? And will you farm
Yes.
the crop? Will you help water the crop? And so you can't control a lot of things, but it sounds like what you're doing is you're bringing value to the marketplace, especially in the month of December. And it sounds like even going into next year, you're just
Yeah.
here to help business owners elevate their bookkeeping, understand where they're going, and steward their business that
Yes.
much better with knowing their numbers and knowing how to get to the next step. Even if that's a tiny little step like contacting Apex Advantage
Yeah.
Bookkeeping.
One step at a time together.
I love it. I love it. Well, is there
Yeah.
anything that we may not have covered, Abel, that you would like to take this opportunity to help share to the entrepreneur who has a business or the entrepreneur who is looking to start a business and really step into their purpose and their calling that God has brought them to here today? Is there anything that you'd like to share?
Just to reiterate two main points, pray, ask for that guidance because we don't have all the answers, but He is there for you. And then build that community intentionally around you because you mentioned their consistency and there's times we don't want to get out of bed. That community will help you be honest with your community. And that's how you're going to be able to grow.
Of that consistency and community, and of course, trusting in God in every
Yeah,
step of the way.
exactly.
I love that. Well, Abel, it's been a pleasure talking to you here today. And thank you again for coming on the podcast. And for
Thank you.
anyone who's watching, really appreciate you being here. Stay blessed by the best. May peace be with you. And we will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you.